Everything that I've done is 100% proper. That's what I do, is I do things proper. There's been no collusion between us and the Russians. There's been no collusion. There's been no crime. And in theory, everybody tells me I'm not under investigation. Maybe Hillary is, I don't know, but I'm not.
President Trump, a short time ago at Camp David, continuing to deny the legitimacy of the Russia probe. Trump also standing by Attorney General Jeff Sessions, but we should note Sessions was not invited to participate in this weekend's gathering at Camp David. This, as NBC News is reporting, multiple Trump officials pressed Jeff Sessions not to recuse himself from the Russia investigation. And adding to the pressure, 3 Republican congressmen are now calling for Sessions to step aside, citing leaks at the FBI. Joining now, Yodit Tuwalde, criminal defense attorney and former Waldman, a White House speechwriter for President Clinton, now head of the Brennan Center for Justice at NYU Law School. Michael, let me start with you and this clarion that we're hearing now. No collusion. We first heard it 16 times in the interview the President did with Michael Schmidt of the New York Times down in Florida. What do you make of what's happened here? It's a new year. They're very eager to turn the page. Nothing markedly has changed here in order for them to say that this investigation is now nearing its end or done.
This is, whether he wants to admit it to himself or not, a major, major threat to him and a major issue for the country. Take a step back. Remember, we had a hostile foreign country meddling in our election, and Russia or somebody else will be back to try to do the same thing in the next election. And any president who swears to uphold the Constitution should be saying, what can we do to protect the country? Instead, he's personalized it, he keeps bringing it up, and he keeps, in effect, confessing to what sure looks like a lot of evidence of obstruction. He said he fired James Comey because of the Russia investigation. They pressured the Attorney General to recuse himself, and according to the new book, he said, I want someone like Roy Cohn, who was the notoriously corrupt henchman for Joe McCarthy. The words out of the president's mouth are the thing that keep tangling him up in this, and it's when he says I'm really smart and there's no collusion, it reminds me of when Richard Nixon said I am not a crook. You know, you don't want to have to repeat your own charge against yourself.
That's going to be the soundbite. Yadid, let me ask you about what Michael just brought up there. What was first reported by the New York Times and reported out this week, that the president asked Don McGahn, his counsel, personal counsel at the White House, to try to dissuade Jeff Sessions from recusing himself from the Russia investigation. What's the gravity of that, as we've seen reported this week?
You know, this issue of recusal and Trump's lack of understanding about when it's warranted actually reminds me of a time not too long ago when then candidate Trump wanted a Hispanic judge to recuse himself from presiding over his cases simply because he was Hispanic, but for some reason can't understand and went to great lengths to try and prevent Sessions from recusing himself from overseeing an investigation into the Trump campaign in which he was a former advisor to. So Trump just doesn't care about the role of an attorney general. What he cares about is that he has an attorney general who is going to protect and serve his personal interests and not the interests of the American people. This is problematic moving forward because what we have seen from Trump is that he is willing to get rid of whoever doesn't play by his rules. And that is setting a dangerous path right now, because what is the reason for wanting to remove Jeff Sessions now? I don't agree with the direction he wants to take the department, but he did the absolute right thing. He saw that there was smoke, and where there's smoke, there's fire. And Jeff Sessions is trying to get out of that kitchen because he does not want to get burned.
You did, Michael. Let me play an exchange here between my colleague Katie Tur and Jim Jordan, the congressman from Ohio, Republican congressman, about the role, what Yudit was just talking about, the role of the Attorney General. Let's take a listen.
Do you think it's Jeff Sessions' job to protect the president?
I think Jeff Sessions shouldn't have recused himself from this issue.
Congressman, is it his job to protect the president?
It's his job to do his job.
Do you think it's Jeff Sessions' job to protect the president?
I think it's Jeff Sessions' job to be the Attorney General of the United States.
I've asked you this question multiple times, and you've given me the same answer.
And it went on. Michael Waldman, let me ask you for your sense of what the job of the Attorney General of the United States is. We heard the president invoke loyalty in a conversation again with Michael Schmidt down in Florida of the New York Times, in the context of talking about Eric Holder and the relationship that he had with President Obama. What role does loyalty play here? To whom is the Attorney General accountable?
The Attorney General's client is the country, not the president. There's always political loyalty. The Attorney General and the president or broadly on the same page as a matter of policy. But we as a country, since Watergate especially, have developed the idea that you protect the law best when there's some independence on the part of the Attorney General, especially when the matter comes to whether the president is investigated or not. Under Bill Clinton, where I worked, Janet Reno agreed with President Bill Clinton's policies, but she appointed special prosecutors to the great unhappiness of a lot of people in the White House because she thought it was the right thing to do. It's not always a comfortable relationship, but a smart client doesn't want a comfortable relationship. They want someone who's going to follow the law.
Yadid, I'll ask you about one other element of the news from this week. That is two ranking senior members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, including the chairman, asking the Justice Department to look into Christopher Steele, the author of the so-called Steele dossier. How important is that? What happens next now that that criminal referral has been made?
Well, the criminal referral was made, but the Justice Department doesn't have to look into it. It was just a referral. It's kind of funny that this is now happening. You have to kind of question the timing of this all. Is it another distraction along with the Clinton investigation, the Clinton Foundation investigation? Is this another attempt to distract us from what is going on right now? As an American, I am concerned with what is happening with our current administration because that affects me and everybody else now. So look, if there's a crime that was committed, there's evidence of that, absolutely, look into it, investigate. But I can't help but to wonder, is this something that the Republicans are looking to do in order for us to be distracted with what's going on now? We need to focus on this administration and whether we have a corrupt government. That is what's important.
Mike Waldman, weigh in here, especially with regard to this Clinton Foundation. The news here that the FBI has been looking into the Clinton Foundation again here as long back as a year ago.
They've looked into it before, but what's particularly new and disturbing is that President Trump publicly demanded that the FBI investigate his opponent. And now they are. And that is a really dangerous, that's kind of a tin pot authoritarian move. And it's troubling also when you see not just his own inner circle, but now elements of the Republican Party doing things like pointing the finger at the guy who, by all accounts, alerted law enforcement about the Russian efforts in our elections, Christopher Steele. More and more people are taking actions that are less and less defensible. And there's always politics, there's always partisanship, but sooner or later the best interests of the country and its democracy